Sunday dawn, April 25th, 2021. The first rays of sunlight had just started kissing the agricultural fields of Lenawee County, Michigan. Rick LeBach made the routine half-mile journey from her residence to her mother's house, exactly as she had done every Sunday morning for their traditional breakfast together. However, this particular Sunday was destined to be unlike any other. This Sunday was about to shatter their world forever. Rick arrived in the driveway and instantly sensed that something felt deeply wrong. Her mother's Cadillac remained in the garage, completely untouched and stationary. The Hummer sat parked at the farm office further down the road. Both vehicles were present and accounted for, yet Dee Warner was absolutely nowhere to be seen. Rick shouted for her mom. Silence answered back. She searched every single room, inspecting every corner of the house they had shared together for countless years. Nothing at all. She grabbed her phone and dialed her mother's number. It went straight to voicemail immediately. This was completely out of character for her mother. Dee Warner was the type of woman who would respond to your text within 5 minutes flat, or she'd be on the phone demanding to know why you hadn't replied yet. If she could have permanently attached her phone to her palm, she would have accomplished it years earlier. Fear began to settle in. Rick observed something else peculiar. There were tissues strewn everywhere across the house. Blankets lay tossed haphazardly on the couch. Upstairs in the master bedroom, her mother's cosmetics bag had vanished. Her curling iron, her blow dryer, all completely missing. But if she had prepared to depart somewhere, why were both automobiles still sitting here? Rick drove down the street to her Uncle Greg and Aunt Shelley's residence. Greg Hardy was Dee's brother, and if anybody would have information about her location, it would be him. "We cannot locate her," Rick told them, her voice trembling with emotion. "Her car is sitting there. We've contacted everyone. We have no idea where she's gone." Greg immediately dialed his sister's number. Dee always picked up when he called, without exception. This time the phone rang continuously. Nothing. He sent a text message. Still silence. For the first time in their entire lives, nobody knew Dee Warner's whereabouts. Rick and her Aunt Shelley jumped into the car and began driving throughout the rural Michigan countryside searching for any trace of Dee. They inspected every location she might be, every friend's residence, every establishment. When they returned to the Warner farm property, they discovered even more disturbing signs. Dee's passport had disappeared. Her phone was gone. But something else was absent too. Their 9-year-old daughter, Lena, Dee and Dale's child together, had spent the previous night at her cousin's house. Dee hadn't arrived to collect her yet, and she hadn't even phoned to check on her condition. This was the most frightening detail of all. Lena accompanied her mother everywhere. They were completely inseparable. Dee would never, ever abandon Lena behind, especially not with Dale. Zach LeBach, another of Dee's 4 children from her previous marriage, showed up at the farm and immediately went to examine the security cameras in the office. Perhaps the cameras had recorded something, anything that could reveal where their mother had disappeared to. He reviewed hours upon hours of footage from that morning. Nothing whatsoever. He never observed his mother walking to the office, never witnessed her driving away. It was as though she had simply evaporated into thin air. By late Sunday afternoon, the family understood they had to contact the police. This wasn't like Dee at all. Something was terribly, terribly amiss. Deputy Austin Hall from the Lenawee County Sheriff's Office arrived at the Warner farm as the sun was descending. He discovered Dale Warner, Dee's husband of 15 years, working in the fields operating the fertilizer sprayer. Dale appeared calm, almost indifferent about his missing wife. He told the deputy he had last observed Dee that morning around 6:00 a.m. sleeping on the couch and snoring loudly. He claimed he had texted her before departing for work, but she hadn't responded back. "Well, her hair curler's gone, her blow dryer's gone, her cosmetics bag is missing," Dale informed the deputy. "I went and saw all that stuff gone. I wasn't really concerned." Dale had an explanation for absolutely everything. He stated Dee had been distressed the previous night after a confrontation with 2 employees from their trucking enterprise. He insisted she had a pattern of leaving when she was furious, that she would calm down and return home eventually. But there was one detail that stood out prominently. Dale mentioned that Dee had left her wedding ring on his desk in the office before vanishing. He stated she had never done that before in their marriage. "She's got a second phone," Dale informed the deputy. "It's a secret phone that she doesn't realize that I know she possesses it." When questioned for the number, Dale claimed he didn't have it available. Dale portrayed a picture of a woman who was unstable, inclined to dramatic departures when circumstances didn't go her way. But to those who truly knew Dee Warner, this characterization didn't match the woman they cherished at all. Dee and Dale Warner weren't simply husband and wife. They were business associates running 3 separate companies from their farm. There was the trucking enterprise that Dee managed with approximately 15 employees. There was the farm itself cultivating crops, and there was a chemical company that distributed fertilizer and seed to other agricultural businesses. Of the 3 enterprises, the trucking company was by far the most profitable, and it was Dee's territory. She operated the office, supervised the drivers, handled the customers. It wasn't simple work. Some of the farmers didn't want to conduct business with a woman, especially one who was younger and attractive. But Dee was resilient. She was straightforward. She told people precisely how things were, and she didn't retreat. Those who worked alongside Dee described her as generous and industrious, but also someone who commanded respect. She had constructed this trucking business from the ground up, and she was immensely proud of what she had achieved. But operating the business came with tremendous stress. There were constant disputes with employees, disagreements about schedules and routes and finances. The day before she vanished, Dee had been involved in a particularly intense argument with a driver who had resigned. She was so distressed that she asked her employee Stephanie Vogel how to block the driver from the company's Facebook page. That was the final text Stephanie ever received from Dee Warner. As for the marriage between Dee and Dale, those closest to them claimed it wasn't a love match. Dee's family believed she had married Dale for his business expertise, his capability to help her achieve the success she desperately desired. Dee loved to dress elegantly, go out dancing, take vacations on cruises. Dale just worked continuously. He was quiet, emotionally distant from Dee's children from her first marriage. When he did communicate with them, it was often to prod at their vulnerabilities, to say things that would inflict pain. The marriage had been turbulent for years, but what Dale didn't realize was that Dee had finally reached her breaking point. The day before Dee disappeared, something transformed. Her children noticed it immediately. She was upset, certainly, but there was something distinctly different about her anger this time. She seemed almost serene, almost determined. Dee had made a decision. She was going to terminate her marriage to Dale. She was going to sell the trucking business, the business she had worked so tirelessly to build, just to escape from him. She was exhausted from the fighting, tired of the stress, weary of a marriage that had become unbearable. That Saturday night, Dee was planning to inform Dale that their marriage was finished. Her children later discovered that Dee had been discussing divorce for months, but she had been anxious about splitting custody of their daughter Lena with Dale. She couldn't tolerate the thought of leaving Lena alone with him, even part-time. But something had altered her mind. Maybe she had decided that anything was preferable to remaining in this marriage. Maybe she had discovered a way to protect Lena. Whatever her plan was, she was prepared to act. Dale told police that he and Dee had fought that Saturday night. According to him, she had accused him of gossiping about her behind her back to the employees she'd been quarreling with. The fight persisted when Dale came home that evening. She says, "You don't care about me. Nobody cares about me. And what does it matter if I'm even here?" Dale told investigators. Those would be the final words anyone would ever hear from Dee Warner. When the family assembled on Sunday to search for Dee, they noticed something troubling. Dale had told each of them slightly different versions of what had occurred the night before. To Greg Hardy, Dale said Dee had a severe migraine headache. She was lying on the floor. He gave her a massage. She went to sleep. He lifted her up and placed her on the couch around 12:30 a.m. When he woke up at 6 or 6:30 a.m. to leave for work, she was snoring on the couch. But to Zach, Dale said they had a really massive fight the previous night. To Rick, Dale said they had just a minor fight, nothing serious, and she was angry, and wouldn't respond to him. Why were the stories contradictory? Why couldn't Dale keep his facts consistent about the final night he supposedly spent with his wife? And then there was the wedding ring. Dale had shown the ring to Dee's family members that Sunday, appearing to offer it as evidence that she had left deliberately. But Greg Hardy knew his sister intimately. That ring was valued at as much as $40,000. If Dee was leaving Dale permanently, she wouldn't have left that ring behind. She probably would have thrown a Molotov cocktail in the house on her way out. A week after Dee's disappearance, Greg organized a massive search of the farmland surrounding her home. About 50 volunteers walked 600 or 700 acres on foot, searching for any indication of her. They found absolutely nothing. Dale showed up to the search on a four-wheeler, but he didn't really participate actively. He just observed from a distance. Greg couldn't shake the sensation that something was profoundly wrong with Dale's behavior. I was getting these, call it a gut feeling if you like, whatever you'd label it. But I was very suspicious of his mannerisms, Greg later stated. 6 weeks after Dee disappeared, Greg's suspicion had evolved into something much stronger. He decided to confront his brother-in-law directly. He asked Dale point blank what he thought about the investigation into his wife's disappearance. "Well, it could be a little faster, but I think they're doing a good job," Dale replied calmly. That's when Greg lost his composure completely. "You know what? You're a liar," he told Dale. "And I'll get you." It was a promise Greg intended to keep faithfully, but believing Dale had something to do with Dee's disappearance was very different from being able to prove it. The Michigan State Police and the FBI had helped conduct large-scale searches of the Warner properties. They had interviewed Dale multiple times. They had examined every piece of evidence they could find. Still, there was no sign of Dee Warner, alive or dead. 10 months after Dee vanished, Shelley Hardy was watching television when she came across an episode of 48 Hours, featuring an investigator named Billy Little. Little was talking about a case where a woman had disappeared and there was no body to be found. "You don't have a body, so what?" Little said on the show. "You don't get away with murder because you're good at disposing of bodies." Those words hit Shelley like a lightning bolt. She immediately called her husband, Greg, to watch the episode. "Get me that guy's number," Greg said, as soon as he heard Billy Little speak. Little was a Missouri-based attorney and investigator who specialized in cases where the victim's body had never been found. He had worked on dozens of similar cases, and he understood how to build a murder case without the most important piece of evidence: the victim. When Greg called, Little agreed to come to Michigan to see what he could do to help. "Maybe you'll find the body. Maybe you won't," Little told them. "But don't sit around waiting for Santa Claus to arrive. You got to resolve this case." Little reached Lenoir County in the spring of 2022 and immediately began work. He spoke to potential witnesses. He walked properties where the family thought they might discover evidence. He piloted drones over thousands of acres of farmland, searching for clues. But most crucially, he assisted the family understand how to maintain pressure on Dale Warner and keep Dee's case in the public spotlight. Part of Little's strategy was what he termed psychological operations. He and Greg wanted Dale to sense the weight of their investigation, to realize that they weren't surrendering, that they were monitoring his every move. Greg paid for a billboard that read, "Help Dale locate Dee," and positioned it at a major intersection near the Warner farm, where the truckers from Dale and Dee's company would observe it every single day. The message was intended sarcastically. Neither Greg nor Little believed Dale was genuinely trying to find his wife. They organized rallies and vigils. They initiated a social media campaign called Justice for Dee. They pushed to have the Michigan State Police assume control of the case from the county sheriff's office, believing the state police had more resources and experience. All the while, they continued their own investigation. Little learned more about the troubled marriage between Dee and Dale. He discovered that they had quarreled frequently about money, that Dee had been planning to abandon Dale and sell the trucking business. This was not a happy marriage, a marriage of endless love, Little concluded. The more he learned, the more convinced he became that Dee was deceased and that Dale was responsible. The evidence that she's dead is the absence of evidence that she's alive. Little explained. No surveillance cameras, no electronic signature. Her phone's not found, her bank accounts were never accessed. Cash wasn't taken from the house, even the ring. She didn't even take that. In August 2022, the Michigan State Police officially assumed control of Dee's case. They had more resources than the county sheriff, and they began to dig deeper into Dale's story. In December 2022, they interviewed Dale again, pressing him harder on the details of that last evening with his wife. This time, Dale revealed something new. He said the argument with the employee who had quit was partly about Dee taking money from the business. Dee said he called her out and said, "I know what you've been doing. You've been taking this money. You know you've been doing this." And she'd been, had she couldn't conceal it anymore. Dale told investigators, but police found no evidence that Dee had actually stolen any money from their businesses. Meanwhile, Greg and Little continued their relentless search for evidence. They identified several properties that seemed suspicious to them, places where Dale might have concealed Dee's body. There was an old farm property about 3 mi from the Warner home that Dale owned with Dee. 6 months after she disappeared, there had been a fire where an old farmhouse used to stand. Neighbors told Greg they thought Dale had set the fire. Police had searched the location but found nothing conclusive. There were fields that Dale farmed near Rick's house. There were other properties 2 towns over that Dale had access to. "There are so many places," Greg said in frustration. On a farm with heavy equipment and chemicals, there were countless ways to dispose of a body. On November 21st, 2023, 2.5 years after Dee Warner disappeared, the call finally came. Dale Warner was under arrest for the murder of his wife. Stephanie Vogel, Dee's friend and employee, was at her mother's funeral when she received the news. "I fell to my knees at the funeral home," she remembered. "I was just so happy." Dale was charged with murder and pleaded not guilty. Even with the arrest, Dee's family knew the hardest part was still ahead of them. Proving murder without a body would be an enormous challenge. "My fear for getting past a preliminary hearing was probably a 1 out of 10. Billy Little said, "My fear of getting a conviction at trial is probably an 8 out of 10. On May 1st, 2024, more than 3 years after Dee disappeared, her family gathered at the Lenoir County District Court for Dale's preliminary hearing. It would be up to Judge Anna Pfau to decide if there was sufficient evidence to send the case to trial. Dale's defense attorney, Mary Chartier, hammered on the obvious problem with the prosecution's case. "There is no body. There are no body parts," she told the court. "Whether Ms. Warner is dead is something that the government needs to prove." But prosecutor Jackie Wise was determined to demonstrate that while there was no body, there was also no evidence that Dee was still alive. Witness after witness testified that they had not seen or heard from Dee since April 24, 2021. Her friend Stephanie Vogel testified about that second phone Dale claimed Dee had. Stephanie had looked into getting one for Dee, but they had never actually purchased it. Detective Daniel Drewer testified about the exhaustive searches law enforcement had conducted over 3 years. They had searched vehicles, obtained phone records, searched social media accounts, conducted multiple searches of the Warner properties. Every search came up empty, but the prosecution had one potentially crucial piece of evidence. Rickle testified that on the day her mother disappeared, she had seen tire tracks by the back of the house leading right up to the sliding glass door. The prosecution suggested these tracks were left by Dale using the farm's front-end loader to remove Dee's body from their home. Security video showed Dale using that same piece of equipment at 7 a.m. on the morning Dee disappeared. Dale had an explanation. He told police he thought he had used the loader to go back to the house to retrieve his worksheet for the sprayer around 6:30 a.m. The security videos were consistent with his story about his movements that morning. The defense emphasized over and over that there was no physical evidence Dale had harmed his wife. No murder weapon, no blood, no forensic evidence of any kind. If he murdered his wife, where on earth is Ms. Warner? Chartier asked the judge. On June 7, 2024, Judge Anna Pfau returned to court with her decision. She spoke first about Dee Warner as a person. Dee Warner was a woman with a big heart and a temper. She cared for her children and grandchildren and employees. The judge said there was nothing in the evidence that suggested she would disappear intentionally, especially from her children. The judge had not been convinced by Dale's claims about a secret phone or someone picking up his wife. These statements were not supported by any facts or evidence in this case, but there was sufficient evidence, she said, to believe that Dee Warner was dead and that her husband was likely responsible. There is probable cause that Dee Warner died by homicide at the hands of the defendant, Dale Warner. Judge Fow ruled. Dale Warner would stand trial for murder. But Billy Little knew the real challenge was still ahead. Yeah, it's a high bar, he admitted, about getting a conviction without a body. What no one knew was that law enforcement was still searching for physical evidence. And in August 2024, 2 months after that preliminary hearing, they would finally discover what they had been looking for. Rickelbach received an urgent message in August 2024. The detectives needed to have an emergency meeting with Dee's family. They gathered at Greg and Shelley Hardy's farm, the same place where they had held vigils and planned searches for 3 long years. This time, the news was different. Police had gone back to a property that Dale and Dee Warner owned together. They had taken away a large metal tank that was used to store fertilizer. According to the search warrant, the tank had a non-factory weld on the back and a sign that read, "Out of service, do not fill." When investigators scanned the tank, they found what they had been searching for all this time. "It was my mom," Rickel said, her voice breaking. Well, it was a body in a tank. Within days, authorities confirmed that the body inside that fertilizer tank was Dee Warner. Her death was ruled a homicide. For 3 years, police had been searching underground, digging up fields, looking in wells, checking every possible burial site. All along, Dee's body had been hidden above ground in a fertilizer tank in one of the farm buildings Dale had access to. The search warrant revealed another crucial detail. Security video from the day Dee was reported missing showed Dale in one of the farm buildings searching for something near the welding equipment. The tank had that non-factory weld on the back, evidence that it had been modified after Dee's disappearance. The discovery of Dee's body changed everything for her family. After 3 years of not knowing, of wondering if she might still be alive somewhere, they finally had answers. "I wanted to shout from the rooftops to everybody that she didn't leave us willingly," Rickel said. They held a private burial for Dee with her 12-year-old daughter Lena present. For Lena, who had grown up these past 3 years not knowing if her mother had abandoned her, the discovery brought a terrible kind of peace. The one thing that she knows for sure, that was her mother there. Greg said, his voice emotional, that her mother didn't leave her. It was real. The family had been forever changed by Dee's murder and the long search for justice. Zach became sober and started his own real estate company. Rickel found strength she didn't know she had. They all carried forward the memory of a woman who had worked hard, loved deeply, and deserved so much better than the fate that befell her. As for Dale Warner, he maintained his innocence through his attorney. His defense team said they were prepared to vigorously fight for him in court and present his defense. But for Dee's family, there was no doubt about what had happened in that farmhouse on the night of April 24th, 2021. They believed Dale had killed his wife, welded her body into a fertilizer tank, and spent 3 years pretending to be a grieving widower, while her family searched desperately for answers. Dee Warner's story is one of a woman who built a successful business in a male-dominated industry, who loved her children fiercely, and who finally found the courage to leave an unhappy marriage. But it's also the story of what happened when she tried to take control of her life. Her children will grow up knowing their mother didn't abandon them. She was taken from them by someone she trusted, someone who shared her bed and her business and her dreams for the future. "My mom would have been there for everything," Rickel said, "thinking about the grandchildren we'll never meet, the celebrations she'll never attend, the phone calls that will never come." In the end, Dee Warner's legacy isn't just the successful business she built or the children she raised. It's the family that refused to give up, that fought for 3 years to find the truth, that turned their grief into determination and their loss into a quest for justice. Dale Warner's trial was scheduled for September 2025. Whether he would be convicted remained to be seen, but one thing was certain: Dee Warner's family would never stop fighting for her, never stop seeking justice for a woman who deserved to live the life she was finally ready to claim for herself. The fertilizer tank sits in evidence storage now, a grim reminder of how a marriage built on business success ended in tragedy. But for those who love Dee Warner, she will be remembered not for how she died, but for how she lived with strength, with determination, and with love for the family that never stopped believing she was worth fighting.